Good evening, everyone. Good evening. To the ABL board, to the membership, and our invited guests. I am very happy and delighted to be here and to serve as the chair of the Atlanta Business League. Now, some people may know that in some circles I'm called William, other circles Bill, some Dollar Bill, and then there's some names that I'm not dignified for this type of setting. But regardless of what you call me, I am here to serve to the best of my capacity for this prestigious organization. If you were here at the very beginning of the program, you heard our ABL president, Leona Davenport, tell you that the Atlanta Business League is an offshoot of the National Negro Business League, founded by Booker T. Washington back in 1900. Now, Washington, as you very well know, was a staunch supporter of black business and black business development. And many, many years later, in 2017, many of his theories and principles are still relevant today. And more importantly, ABL's mission, I submit to you, is still relevant today. For that reason, I'm delighted to serve as the chairman of the Atlanta Business League. Now, before I go any further, let me take care of order of business here. As I look at my fellow native Atlantan, Milton Jones, I want to thank you, my friend, for your strong leadership over the last 2 years. It is greatly appreciated. Now, as I stand before you this evening, there's a number of emotions that are going through this rail-thin body you see. First of all, I want to say that it's great to be here because I am a proud native of Atlanta. And yes, I am a Grady baby. And maybe for that reason alone, I love Atlanta. Through the good times and bad. I remember when the Braves were losing 100 games a year, and I was walking around campus of Harvard Business School with a Braves cap on, and people said, "I think you got the wrong cap on." I said, "One day, we'll win it all." 1995, we did. Remember the days of walking around with my Falcons hat on after a few of those 2-14 seasons? Even back in the day when I had 14 games, going 1-13. And who knows, maybe this year we'll rise up and we'll win it all. But that just gives you a sense of my civic pride for Atlanta. It is a very, very special place. My grandparents owned a home not too far from here in a neighborhood called English Avenue. Some people here in this town might call it the Bluff. It wasn't the Bluff back then in the early 60s. It was a vibrant neighborhood where you had a number of middle-class, hard-working families resident there. And a lot of leadership of this city, from an African-American perspective, came from that Vine City, English Avenue neighborhood. And I have some very fond memories of my weekends running amok in that neighborhood, being scolded and sometimes spanked, they called it whoopings back then, by a number of folks who helped to make me the man I am today. Also, as a kid, I had the opportunity, my family moved from English Avenue. We moved over to Kirkwood. I was closer to where my father's job was. So that was over in the part of town called Decatur. And then they moved on up like George and Wheezy and bought a brand new house in Adamsville, in southwest Atlanta, which is a little further up the road here. Also graduated from Northside High School, which is now called North Atlanta, with two distinguished classmates I would note. One being actress Jasmine Guy, and the other being Wanya Lucas, who is the president and CEO of WABE and WPBA. If you want to make your donations, I think she is in the room somewhere. But it was there I started to begin to understand the economics and the difference of economics in this town. To go from the south side of town, that long 1-hour bus ride to Northside Drive, I got to do a compare and contrast. And I got to understand, a very good understanding of the wealth that was being built in Buckhead. But I already knew about black business wealth created in the city because my grandfather used to always tell me stories about black business folks who were making a whole lot of money here in Atlanta. He talked about the Pascal brothers, he talked about Bonner brothers, he talked about Alonzo Herndon and Norris Herndon, and let's not forget about Norris Herndon and the work that he did in growing Atlanta Life into the company that it is today. My grandfather's name was Henry Howard. He was a quiet, modest, hard-working man. They would say salt of the earth, good as the day is long. He worked at Trust Company Bank, which is now SunTrust, from 1921 until he retired in 1970. He knew about black businessmen. When I was every year when it was Easter time, he would take me down to Rich's. I don't know if you folks who from here might know what Rich's was all about. And buy me these three-piece suits. Now just imagine a 7-year-old boy walking around with a three-piece suit with a pocket watch. Now I wonder, everybody else, once I got older, everybody else was wearing leisure suits and everything else. And my grandfather said, no, none of that, son. I want to dress you like a businessman because hopefully one day you'll be able to go much further than what I've been able to do in my career. And so he told me about these black businessmen of wealth and insight. And when I was a kid, I thought these giants literally walked the streets of, Hunter Street, which is now MLK Boulevard or Auburn Avenue. And well, they were giants, and they made impressive impacts on this city. Whether you talk about Herman Russell or Jesse Blayton or John Cox, they were all instrumental in forming the Atlanta business community. And for those who don't know, the Herman Russells of the world just helped to really build this city and many iconic structures that you see driving by on 7585, one being the headquarters of Coca-Cola Company. The other titan I mentioned, Jesse Blanton, was a brother who helped to finance most of the subdivisions around Mosley Park and building houses and affordable housing for many African Americans. He also was a CPA and owned a radio station to boot. They're also corporate trailblazers who made their mark. John Cox was the first African American vice president at Delta Airlines. Erica Qualls was the first woman to hold a title as general manager of the Atlanta Marriott Marquis. But this is what humbles me. Each of those individuals is more than an incredible business person. Each one of those individuals stood in the very same spot I am today, serving as the chair of the Atlanta Business League. They held influential leadership positions in the Atlanta Business League because they knew the importance of serving this wonderful community. And they understood the very strong link between community service and economic growth. The foundation of what I would call modern black business economics really took off when Maynard Jackson became mayor. But it continued unabated through the administrations of Ambassador Andrew Young to Bill Campbell, Shirley Franklin, and Kasim Reed. By the late 1990s, the Olympics had supercharged our commerce here in this town, and it also benefited black business as well. And that was around the time we started to earn the nickname of Hotlanta. Now, some people think that was based on the sultry temperatures that we have in August and July. But many folks started to take notice, especially African Americans, that Hotlanta was given that name because it really helped to represent this powder keg of black business growth that was taking place in the city, a very unique ecosystem that many called the land of black business opportunity. And I took you down this trip down memory lane for a reason. You see, everyone I told you about was fueled my inspiration to serve as the chair of the Atlanta Business League. And I want to follow in their footsteps and make sure we would continue the diligent, focused activity required to make sure that African Americans get their fair share in business in my hometown. I want to build on their impressive legacies because it is my sincere belief that the cornerstone of the strength of the African American community in Atlanta, Georgia, is a thriving Black business environment. So, in my 2 years as chair, I'll be dedicated and focused on 4 specific goals. First, I want to strengthen the existing partnerships we have with the overall Atlanta corporate community. There is vast opportunity there, and we should mine it for the benefit of our members. 2, I want to make sure that ABL finds ways to leverage technology to deliver our services to our members. We can no longer be ignorant to the fact that the digital domain is the way in which many would like to interface with organizations. It's great that we get together in forums like this, but we must augment it with the leverage of technology. Thirdly, I want to make sure the Atlanta Business League is truly the preferred organization for African American entrepreneurs in this city and in the region, and specifically targeting toward millennials. It's time for us to get a bit younger, Atlanta Business League, and we cannot wait until those individuals become of a certain age before we reach out and bring them into the fold. And last, I want to make sure that we're doing all we can to get to know each other professionally and personally. There is nothing more important than personal relationships when it comes to business growth. Now, in addition to my chair responsibilities at Atlanta Business League, as you heard from President Wilson, my day job is the executive in residence and chief operating officer at Morehouse College. And before that, I had the pleasure to serve as the president and CEO of Atlanta Life Financial Group. And good to see our board chair there being in the audience this evening. I also wanted to let you know that my professional contributions to ABL is not just on the corporate side, but also I spent some time in the federal government. Now, I will tell you, when you get that phone call, take some time to think about it, because it is definitely a different world, but it's one that it pays from a political standpoint to have influence with both parties. Now, during President Barack Obama's first term, I was appointed into the role of the head of federal student aid, in which I was able to ensure during the Great Recession that millions of Americans continue to receive the aid for college education. And in fact, working with both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, to increase that aid from $96 billion to $150 billion, where it continues to stand today. Before that, I had the opportunity to work in Fortune 500 companies, the IBMs of the world, First Union and Wachovia, and I learned a heck of a lot in regards to business development there, especially in terms of supplier diversity, which can also help our members. But I also have more than just a corporate background. For some folks in the room may know that I have my own management consulting firm, Veritas One, that I've had up and running since 2008. So I understand the challenges of entrepreneurs fighting for that RFP or for that next business opportunity. I also think I have a pretty good insight of what it takes to form successful collaborations. And collaborations are very important, especially in today's world. In fact, when Leona described that we were in this age of opportunity, I smiled. Opportunities come from strong personal relationships and business relationships. And relationships turn into successful partnerships when competent people come together to do great work. That's essentially the legacy of the Atlanta Business League, and it is one that I want to expand during my time as chair. That means encouraging everyone to bring your contacts, your insight, your skills, your capabilities, your passions together and share it with the rest of the membership. And make sure that we're getting all the breaks that we deserve, and that, frankly, we have earned through our competence. Now, that does not mean we need to be exclusionary. No, I believe we should have a very broad tent, invite others who agree with the mission, the Atlanta Business League, to partner along with us. However, I would strongly advocate that it will be our responsibility going forward to take care of ourselves first. If you have a business opportunity in any shape or form, I would ask you first to consider a member of the Atlanta Business League before you seek to give that business opportunity to someone else. I urge everyone to understand that you can never take opportunity for granted because, as we well know, favorable conditions can change in an instant. And when they do, because it is inevitable, you must find ways to work with those who have your best interests at heart. It is the purpose of the Atlanta Business League to help you find ways to do exactly that. Believe you me, because those people exist. It is my opinion that collaboration will be more important going forward than ever before, and collaboration is a discipline in and of itself. Yes, we've had a change in the White House. Thank you, Obama. I wish you were coming back soon. But you know what? Some may lead you to believe that there may be some policy decisions being made by the current president that may be unfavorable to the African American community. That is yet to be seen, but I would submit to you that let not your heart be troubled. We've heard this story before. Let's go back in the time. I remember when President Reagan came into office, and there was a lot of boo-hooing and crying and gnashing of teeth. But you know, here in Atlanta, if you look in the 1980s, this is fact, that was the biggest growth in black business that ever to occur in this city. So let's not worry so much about what's happening in Washington and wringing our hands and worry. Let's spend that time, that energy, that thought leadership, that creativity, and how we can better partner together to grow our respective businesses. Of course, the visionary leadership of Atlanta's first black mayor, Maynard Jackson, helped fuel that growth. And a lot of individuals in this room and those outside this room continue to benefit from those structural changes. ABL was part of the boom in this city during that time frame, and I submit to you, we're going to remain relevant as we move forward in business growth in this city. Simply put, it is up to us to emphasize each other, our skills and capabilities, so that we can grow and prosper. So another goal that I have is to ensure that we find ways that ABL members can improve their methods of forging strong business partnerships. There are several ways in which we can achieve that. One way we can do so for business owners is be able to sit down with someone who has already traversed that territory. They serve as a veteran, advice, counsel, or mentor, and have that exchange of information so that you get the insights and the nuances of business growth and leadership. For others, it may be understanding the meaning of collaboration versus competing. And there is separate and distinct definition and skill sets associated with that. For those who are working in corporate America, it may mean a mentoring session with someone who's a former CEO or a former C-suite executive to give you the insight so that you get the office in the corner part of the building. Others may find it be helpful to learn about technology, big data, social media, cybersecurity, or the new emerging ways of raising capital. For that might be the way to move your business forward. This is a new day, and the business environment is changing rapidly around us. We cannot and you cannot continue your same path of the past going forward and expect to be successful. Everyone must develop a new 21st century approach, either professionally and or personally, to make sure that you're able to dominate in your field of human endeavor. So in closing, I'd like to thank ABL for having the faith in me, little boy from English Avenue, And I thank all of you for supporting the Atlanta Business League. God bless you and the Atlanta Business League. Let's work together to make 2017 and beyond the true era of opportunity. And before I leave the podium, rise up and go Falcons!